Hello, and welcome back to the Mental Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Cheyenne, and welcome to the last episode of this season with the outcomes. Episode 6. We're on our last outcome. Outcome 10? Ken. Barbie and Ken. We're on outcome Barbie and Ken. No, we're on outcome 10, where we're going to discuss different jobs that you could get with psychology degrees, and then I'm going to say which ones would be more beneficial for musicians. They would all be beneficial for musicians, especially if it's therapists, which most of them are. Obviously, for obvious reasons, psychology and. But yeah, so that's what this episode's about. I think it worked out fine. I think that this outcome's the best one to be last, I would think. Just so you musicians out there know what therapy or what options would be best to help you out. So, first, I'll give some examples of careers you could go into if you take psychology, cuz psychology is actually pretty cool. I will say, this course, I actually really like this course. Not going to lie. My favorite part was Freud, especially when we actually had our actual teacher teaching it. Him teaching Freud was so he was so awkward teaching it. I find it was I held in my laughs because he was saying how he hoped that we were mature, and I looked around the class. It's an 11 course actually, and I think we only have two 11th graders. So yeah, but yeah, we were generally mature. I was mature. I didn't laugh at nothing. Unless when everyone else laughed. And he laughed. He was very uncomfortable though. He had to shut the doors. Yeah, he never shuts the doors. Anyways, some jobs that you could get with a psychology degree. An art therapist. I didn't know that really existed. I'm not shocked it exists though. They use a lot. They utilize the expressive and creative arts to help their clients cope with like psychological distress and stuff, and it enhances their emotional well-being. Did not know that. Art therapy specifically is often used in a variety of situations, like adults suffering from chronic or severe stress, children with disabilities, people who have suffered brain injuries, and stuff like that, and people who have witnessed or experienced a traumatic event. So it's used a lot with people with PTSD. And then there's a clinical psychologist. Most of y'all will know. They're like your normal psychologist you find in an office. A counselor, like your marriage counselor, your family counselor, that kind of counselor, and like your substance use issue counselor. Um, I'm going to try to say this. Ignore how I say it because it's most likely wrong. A geropsychologist, psycho, psych, ooh, psychologist. They help the older generation. Yeah, with their mental health. They specialize in older adults' mental health and stuff. Did not know they had a thing. I thought there was like child psychologists because they do have that, and then just psychologists for the rest. That's what I thought. Apparently not. We learn something new every day. Yeah. And then the experimental psychologists, they use like the, oh my god, why did I forget the hypothesis and that stuff, scientific method. They use that, and they design like studies that explore different topics within psychology as a whole. Consumer psychologist. sorry, stuff. Forensic or criminal psychologist. That one's pretty popular. I think you guys would know what that is. An engineering psychologist. They use psychology to investigate how people interact with machines and other technology. So I'm guessing it became kind of more popular as like we got more, especially after the the industrial revolution. After they started creating all these machines, engineering. So when engineering became a big thing, probably a sport. You guys know a sports psychologist, probably. They specialize in athletes. Traffic psychologist. It's an emerging field that involves applying psychological principles to understanding driver behavior. Some areas include designing vehicles that are safer and more ergonomic, searching for ways to improve the traffic safety and prevent auto accidents. Actually, where I live, there's just one corner. It's down by our Tim Hortons and our college. I should say we don't have a university, we have a college. It's down near that. Um, it used to be like the stoplights, but now it's just a two-way stop sign. So going this way, there'll be stop signs, and that way there's not so many accidents happen there after they took out the lights. I think they should put it back in. I was almost involved in one of those accidents. Yeah, not fun. And the traffic psychologist, getting back on track, they study the relationship between driver behavior and traffic accidents. So they'd help with like probably after you had an accident to figure out what the cause of the accident was, I think. There's a career counselor, ones that help with careers and stuff. Aviation psychologist, pilots and stuff. Industrial organizational psychologist. They focus on workplace behavior. Yeah. A genetic counselor. They provide info about like genetic disorders to couples and families. Say if they want to start having kids and stuff, they help with that. A health psychologist, a school psychologist, so like a school therapist. A special ed teacher. Yeah, and like you could be an academic advisor, you could be a caseworker, an animal trainer. Shocker, actually, you could be an animal trainer or an animal researcher. You could be a college recruiter, anything like that. An editor, a criminal investigator, an elementary school teacher, a employment interviewer, a grief counselor, a lawyer, a journalist. So you could go into psychology, but then you could become a lawyer afterwards, like go to law school afterwards. You could be a neurologist, a physician. I think that's how you say it. Oh, you could be a police officer, a probation officer, a psychiatrist, a research assistant, school counselor, science writer, secondary school teacher, social worker. And I'm not naming them off. There's like friggin' 80 plus. And last one I'll say is a youth counselor. So, which ones do I think? This is my opinion. What ones do I think would help musicians the most? First, let's go back up to one of the first ones we read. Because, clinical psychiatrist. Oh my goodness. A clinical psychiatrist. They really help anyone. So, they could help a musician. Same with a counselor. If they have like couple issues, like a couples counselor, if they have family issues, like you're a normal person. The older generation could benefit from the psychologist that helps the older people. I will not be trying to pronounce that word again. Will not happen. I guess an experimental therapist could help, unless you don't want to be a test subject, kind of. That's what I get from this one. Yeah. Forensic and criminal psychologist, if the musician becomes a criminal because of, let's say, what they've been through, the trauma, and they just start like, because your brain works in mysterious ways. So, not a sports psychologist. Though, speaking of sports psychologists, I was talking with someone the other day. It was my conductor. We were stopped somewhere picking someone up, and I was telling him that I couldn't come next Wednesday because I had a presentation about this project. And I had to explain to him what it was, and then when I told him that it was like it's like showcasing projects he'd been working on that year, he asked me what project I was working on, and he starts questioning me about it, and then he starts questioning the statistics. It did prep me for it because people will be questioning it, but one of the points I made, because when I was doing research, because I did a research essay on this topic as well, because you know how they're sports psychologists, I believe there should be also musician psychologists. Like, yes, they're not the same, obviously. Like, the sports psychologists help with like the mental stuff that goes on with not musicians, Jesus, sport athletes, because like so many hours of training a day, constantly and always away. But musicians, like, they're not like active. They're not as active as they are, and not like beating people up. No, they don't. Not every athlete beats people up, but like boxing and stuff and football. But like, they're not trying to defeat another team. But it is a lot of hours of practice and rehearsal, and practice outside of the rehearsal, and a lot of them constantly travel as well. And like, you know how sports sometimes you have to relocate for a team. Musicians, there's a lot of musicians that do the same. So yes, I think there should be a psychologist specifically for musicians that specialize in musicians, like there is for sports. That's a big point for me for my project, actually, that I'm going to talk about, because like it's a big thing to me. Career counselors, getting back on track again. Career counselors could help, like they help with everyone with their careers. They could help direct them in the right way. But a lot of musicians I find are stubborn. I'm stubborn. Most of the musicians I know, if not all, are stubborn. So they might not listen, but they will like try to help. Whether they listen or not, that's on them. Yeah. So those are the big ones. Like, I mean, a caseworker could help literally anyone, but like your normal psychiatrist, obviously, if there's someone has like a mental breakdown and ends up in like a 72-hour hold in the hospital in the psych ward, it's bound to happen to, I'd say, 50% of musicians because of the pressure, especially now with social media. Maybe not so much back, like maybe in the 80s, but now especially with social media, yeah, because of all like the judgment you get online and stuff. Because there's a lot of people, like a lot of smaller artists, especially, I find they do go through their comments because they want feedback. But then there's this, like, there'd be like one comment, like calling them slurs, even if they're, I don't know, but yeah, calling them slurs and stuff. So psychiatrists can help. A social worker if they're having issues at home with children. Yeah. But yeah, substance abuse counselor is a big one, because there's a lot of musicians that struggle with substance abuse. It's a big one. a lot of musicians, 51% of musicians, a lot of musicians self-medicate, like 51 or like 54%, and then 54% struggle with the alcohol abuse, and then 51 struggle with drug abuse. They like mainly self-medicate with it, and usually ends up turning into abuse. So that could help. Okay? I will say I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the end of the episode. The end of the season. I do plan on continuing it. Don't hold me to my word. I may forget. I do want to continue it because it is a great thing to do because musicians also need help. Yeah. So, with that being said, I will hopefully see you guys next time. And it won't be for another like few weeks because of exams and prom and grad. But it will be at one point. And I don't think there'll be a schedule for a little bit about it either. So I'll see you next time. I'll see you whenever. So goodbye.